Hello, hello! Welcome to today's live English lesson here on the Speak English with Vanessa YouTube channel. Today we have an important topic. It's how to use the word unless. I got a lot of questions through email and YouTube comments about challenging words, and the word unless seems to be a challenging word. So today we're going to break it down. I'm going to ask you a lot of questions, and hopefully by the end of this lesson, you'll have a clear image of how to use the word unless. Thanks so much for those of you who are joining me live. We've got friends from all over the world. If you would like to join me live for the next lesson, if you're watching the replay, we have live lessons every Tuesday and Thursday at 9 a.m. EST. That's the New York Standard Time. So I hope that you can join me and participate. That's the goal. Thanks so much for being here live from Vietnam. Thanks so much. Alan in Brazil. Wonderful. Federica, welcome. Gustavo in Honduras. Tsuyoshi in Japan, hello. Thanks for taking time from your busy day, everything else that's going on, to take a moment to improve your English. So let's start by thinking about a scenario. Next week, I'm gonna go strawberry picking with one of my friends. And I'm excited. I like strawberries. I like being outside. I like food and fruit. But what are some reasons why I might not go? I want you to think of some ideas, write them in the chat box, think about them. What are some reasons why I might call my friend and say, oh, sorry, I can't go because, what are some reasons? And then we're going to use your answer to create our first sentence using our keyword today. So think about this. Why might I not go? Our first answer, Eduardo says, maybe you could be sick. All right, great answer. So my first excuse is, I don't feel well today. I feel sick. Theophilia says, maybe it's raining. Another great answer. It's no fun to go outside and pick strawberries in the rain. So maybe it's raining. Maybe I'm sick. Oh, Mr. Gray says, maybe you're an introvert. Maybe you really don't want to spend time with your friend. Okay, maybe I don't like the social situations. Maybe your friend is boring. Oh, someone says you're pregnant. That's another reason. Maybe my baby comes. Probably not this early, but it's possible. Or maybe I feel uncomfortable and I decide, today's not a good day. These are all great excuses. Maybe you feel under the weather. Well, let's take one of these. How about, let's just take the rain excuse. It's raining. Well, I want to go pick strawberries, but it's raining. So how can we make a sentence using unless? And after we make that sentence, I'm going to explain it, and then we'll talk about it in more detail. I have a couple great questions to ask you today, including a famous quote. But first, let me write our first sample sentence using unless. Let's say, I will go strawberry picking. Here we have our keyword, unless it rains. Oh, so we could use any of those excuses here. I'll go strawberry picking unless I have my baby. I'll go strawberry picking unless I'm not feeling well. I'll go strawberry picking unless the world ends. So we need to use our keyword here for some kind of exception. I will do it except for one thing, the rain. So that is our key meaning for the word unless. This is going to be an exception or except. So we're taking an excuse or an exception for this thing that I want to do. And you're going to see that a lot in this lesson, that after the word unless, this phrase, unless it rains, is going to be an exception. I will go strawberry picking. I love strawberries. I can't wait to eat sun-kissed strawberries fresh from the earth. Unless it rains. This is the exception. Unless it rains. So before I ask you some more questions, I want to share with you a famous quote. This is a quote I found yesterday, and if you agree, if you don't agree, it's okay. But I thought I'd share it because it uses our keyword today in a perfect situation. This is from Albert Einstein, and he says, "Nothing will end war unless the people themselves refuse to go to war." Maybe you agree with this, maybe you don't agree, but here he's using an exception. And this is a great example because he's using the word nothing at the very beginning. And this word nothing, we can imagine nothing at all will stop war, but he has an exception. Unless the people themselves refuse to go to war. Oh, we have some friends here who agree. Julian agrees. Anwar agrees. So it's important to think about this. Interesting concept. Let's talk about next the placement. Where can you add unless? So far, all of our sample statements, all of our sample sentences have used unless, even here as well, in the middle of the sentence. Can we add the word unless anywhere else? Do we have other options? You might know English grammar and English sentence structure can be kind of flexible. Oftentimes we can add words or phrases in different areas. So what is another option? Where else can we add this unless phrase? All right. We've got a beautiful answer here from Navja. Navja says, at the beginning. Ding, ding, ding. Yes. So let's just move this to the beginning and see how it sounds. Unless it rains, I will go strawberry picking. Oh, beautiful. That's great. No problem. Can we use that for Albert Einstein's quote? Unless the people themselves refuse to go to war, nothing will end war. Great. Yes, we can definitely use the unless phrase at the beginning. And you're going to see today that for me, I would rather have the unless phrase in the middle, usually at the end of the sentence, but here unless is in the middle of our sentence, but it's no problem to add it at the beginning. In fact, a lot of people do that. I do that sometimes, and there's no difference in the meaning. So today, as we practice this, feel free to practice using unless at the beginning. Feel free to practice using it in the middle, and you'll be using it naturally. So I want to continue to challenge you by asking you some questions. First, I'll ask you the question and see if you can answer it using unless without a sample sentence from me yet. And then I'll give you a sample sentence, and it will be your test. Can you do it? Can you answer it? All right, my first question I wrote here is, you have a great thing happening to you. You have a flight booked to go to New York tomorrow morning. Woohoo! Great, you can travel. You have a flight booked to go to New York tomorrow morning. What might stop you? Imagine the situation of me picking strawberries. It's a great thing. It's exciting. I'm looking forward to it. You're looking forward to going to New York, but still, something might stop you. What might stop you from going to New York? So you can think about my previous sample sentence and try to insert the ideas from this question, or you can simply write your answer and then I'll give you some feedback. Because you're pretty excited about going to New York. Not much is going to stop you, but something might stop you. Oh, Rodrigo says, maybe I don't have a visa. Ooh, great thing. Visas are mostly necessary, unfortunately. Kind of annoying, but you need a visa. Dickens says, unless I'm sick. Abdu says, unless it's canceled. Unless it's really cold there. So let's create our sentence using some of those ideas. I will, or we can always say I'll. We can make it a contraction. I'll go to New York. Unless. We can insert a lot of your answers here. Unless I don't have a visa. Unless. What's another excuse? Oh, unless there's bad weather. Sure, maybe your flight is delayed or you feel worried about traveling, but not much is going to stop your trip because you're pretty excited. So if you don't have a visa, you can't go. So let's say I will go to New York tomorrow unless I forget my visa. So nothing is going to stop you. But here is our exception. This phrase is our exception. Unless I don't have a visa. Now, sometimes when teachers try to explain the word unless, they say that you need to have a positive thing plus a negative thing. So I will go to New York unless I don't. But this is true maybe 80% of the time. It's not always going to be a negative situation. It's just an exception to whatever is happening in your sentence. It's just an exception, but oftentimes it will be the opposite, a negative thing. Or maybe if the beginning of the sentence is positive, it might be, or if the beginning of the sentence is negative, it might be positive. So oftentimes you're going to have a positive part and a negative part. Not always, but it's a good thing to keep in mind. Let's think about a second question. This is a second test question. And let's imagine you're going on a blind date tonight. Personally, I've never been on a blind date. I've been dating and married to my husband for a long time, since I was 18 years old. Whew. So I have had no time or interest in going on a blind date. But let's imagine that you are going on a blind date tonight. What are some reasons why you might leave early? Maybe you're going to go have dinner together. Why might you leave in the middle of dinner, in the middle of the date? What are some things that might be wrong? Let me know. Think of some creative answers. And think about our sample sentences that we've used in the past. We're using typically something positive, and then our exception is going to be something negative. What is a reason why you might leave early? We have a great question. What's a blind date? A blind date means that you've never seen them before. You don't know maybe you don't know anything about them, but your friend said, hey, this guy is really nice. Why don't you go on a date with him? And he calls you and you go on a date and you haven't really been friends before. So it's an unknown situation, kind of crazy, but some people enjoy it. So what are some reasons why you might leave early? Oh, we have a great answer. Maybe the date wasn't what I expected. Unless you don't like Thai food. Oh, maybe the food isn't any good. Maybe he's not friendly. Oh, maybe you feel sick and there's some weird feelings with your stomach. Great answer. How about, oh, bad breath? Really clever. Thanks, Rodrigo. Unless the guy has bad breath. So let's write our sample sentence using this idea and see how we can use unless. So here we're going to use our positive statement. I'll stay at dinner with him. I'll stay unless he has bad breath. Important. So we've got our keyword here and our exception statement. I'll stay unless he has bad breath. So as you're writing your sample sentences, I recommend writing a full sentence. Don't just write this final part, because when we're speaking, we're going to use the full idea. Oh, I'll stay unless he's really rude, unless he doesn't like cats, unless, what is your exception? Oh, we can also use this. There's a great comment here in the chat box using this in the opposite way. Let's imagine you're really picky. Picky means that you don't like this, you don't like this, you don't like this, you don't like this. I only like this. You're really picky. So let's imagine that that is you. So let's say, I'll leave. So here we're using something negative. Before the date started, you already have negative thoughts. So you'll say, I'll leave unless, and in the chat box, I'm sorry, it already went by. I didn't catch your name. Unless he has a Ferrari. All right. Well, thank you. This is not true for me. Maybe it's true for you, or maybe it isn't true, but it's a funny statement. So let's use this to talk about something negative here. I'll leave unless he has a Ferrari, and then I'll stay. Maybe it's not a good beginning of a solid relationship, but maybe that's not what you're interested in. I'll leave unless he has red hair. I'll leave unless he does something wonderful. So we have two ways to use this, and typically we're using a positive, then a negative thing, or a negative plus a positive thing. Not always going to be the case, but occasionally. Let's talk about our final question. My final question is, your friend wants to improve their English, or maybe you do. What kind of advice can you give them? This is a little tricky. I want to give you a sample sentence here to give you some hints. The beginning of this sentence, your friend wants to improve their English. So what kind of advice can you give them? And you can give them advice using a lot of different sentence structures, not even using today's keyword, but of course today we're practicing unless. So I want you to be able to use unless as much as possible. How can we construct a sentence using unless to give advice? How about if we start with something negative? Let's say you won't improve unless, how can we finish that sentence? I want you to think of some great ideas. You won't improve unless, so we need some positive things. What can they do? Because maybe your friend says, well, I don't really know what to do. I just had some English classes when I was younger, but now I'm kind of lost. What should I do? And you can say, oh, stop right there. Don't waste your time. You won't improve unless, and those of you here in the chat box said, unless you practice every day. Great answer, Milena. Unless you watch Vanessa's YouTube channel. Well, I'm glad it's useful to you, Ashir. Unless you start working hard. Oh, beautiful answer. You won't improve unless you enjoy it. Thank you for saying that. I think that's a really important point. Working hard is great, but you have to also be motivated, so you have to enjoy it. Do something that is enjoyable for you. You won't improve unless you enjoy it. We're using our exception here. Unless you enjoy it. You won't improve unless you talk more with native speakers. All right. You won't improve unless you stop being lazy. Oh, great. Lucas says you won't improve unless you watch Vanessa's classes. Well, I'm glad it's useful to you. You won't improve unless you practice as much as possible. Important. Practice as much as you can, work hard, and enjoy it. And I hope that's what these lessons are. I hope that they're enjoyable to you and motivate you. So we've practiced a lot of different examples today. Lots of them. And before we go, I want to say a final statement all together using today's keyword. So wherever you are around the world, let's say this statement together. You can write it in the chat box. I'm not going to write it down, so I want you to listen carefully. Think about it, say it out loud, and mean it from the bottom of your heart. Make it sincere and honest. Are you ready? It's kind of a funny sentence. We're going to say, I'll keep studying English unless the world ends. And this means, as you can imagine, this means that I'll always study English. Well, unless the world ends, your exception, the only thing that's gonna stop you from learning English is the world ending. And we probably have bigger problems at that time anyway. So let's say this all together to keep your motivation, to bring us together no matter where you're living. Let's say it together. I'll keep studying English unless the world ends. So for you, I hope that you'll continue to study, continue to learn English, and you'll continue to learn unless the world ends someday. So keep it up. Keep up the good work. And if you would like to continue studying with me unless the world ends, then I have a couple recommendations. Feel free to watch the other lessons on my YouTube channel. There's a lot of recorded live lessons. There's a lot of expression lessons, tips and ideas for books you should read, movies you can watch, how you can use certain expressions like today, how to use the word unless. These tips are for you for free, so enjoy them. Use YouTube. It's a great resource. And if you would like to get more English from me, immerse yourself in English, then I recommend reading my free ebook, 5 Steps to Becoming a Confident English Speaker. In this book, you'll know what is the best path for you, and I hope that it will guide you so that you don't feel lost with all of the options on the internet. There's a lot of options. So this book will help you to know what are the steps for you to becoming confident. And when you read this free ebook, the good news is you'll be immersed in English even more because I'll send you 2 free English lessons every week through email. So I'll explain more ideas about expressions, explain more cultural ideas, include stories, include ideas that will hopefully motivate you and help you to stay interested unless the world ends. So thank you so much for learning with me. I hope you have a beautiful day and enjoy English unless the world ends. See you later, everyone. Have a wonderful day. Bye.